Hello, my name is Doris. Thank you for spending some time with me here. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. And if you've been here before, thank you for coming back. In today's video, this is one I'm going to call How to Upsize and Upcycle Your Garments. This is 1.5 of my series. I'm not going to call it point 2 because I did part 1 in the beginning of the week or middle of the week to talk about what I was doing in terms of how I upcycle and upsize at the same time my jackets. And this is finishing up and showing you what I did for the week. I did show one finished jacket and a top earlier this week in that introductory video, part 1. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the other 2 jackets I finished, and then also this one, which I made for an event tonight, which is minimal upsizing, but it is upcycling. And this jacket is a 2X, but it has some stretch in it. For this jacket, I only had to do minimal upsizing because it was already approximately the size. And you can see it finished up really cute. And then I also used the technique of printing on fabric that I talked about in an earlier video, and I'll put the link in the description for this one. I'm really pleased with the way these jackets turned out. I'll show you a few pictures here of the pieces that I put into this jacket. And there is a way measuring, I talked about opening up down the side. And what I do is I measure from the wrist, or wherever the wrist is going to be, to the armpit. And then from the armpit down to the hem. Sometimes I put one long rectangular piece in and I make it about 10 or 12 inches wide. And basically that's as wide as I want it to be down at the hem. What I started doing, and you'll see with these pictures here, I do 2 pieces. And that's because of the skirt that I chose. Sometimes when I use a dress, I can get the whole piece because it's long enough. But I wanted it to be narrower at the wrist and then gradually widen to be at the pit. And then at the pit, widen out. So it's more like a godet. It's more like a diamond shape. And that makes it fit better at the wrist. On this top, what I did is I left it wide all the way down, a rectangle, and it was about 12 inches all the way, and then the total length of the garment. And that gives you more fabric under the arm, so it drapes nicely when you put your arm down. But then you have all of this fabric here. Now, sometimes that looks like a kimono sleeve, and sometimes I need to do something a little different. So you'll see here what I did. I'll insert a picture where I gathered it with some elastic, and it looks kind of cute. And I put a tie there on the end of the elastic. So if you want to have it tighter or you want to have it looser, you can tie that bow that way. Now on the second jacket, the one where I showed you the 2 pieces, it turned out like this. That is not the case because I had a nice black hem on that skirt, and I wanted that hem to kind of drape down a little bit on the underside of the sleeve. And I'll show you what that looks like here in the finished product. I think they turned out really nice. I like this technique and I use it a lot in terms of opening up the sleeve. When I do part 2 of upsizing and upcycling garments, I'll talk more about the godets and a simpler one where I don't open up the underarm. And I'll talk about that in next week's video, and I'll give you a prequel for it in the beginning of the week. So stay tuned. Watch my next videos and you can see that. And here I'll show you the finished products. And I will also show you some pictures here of how these look pinned up. So you can see I kind of have a hanky hem on this one. This one I have a little different hemline. So I also try to use all of the pieces. It's of a dress. If you can notice on the bottom of this one, that's actually the bodice of the dress. It gives it a nice V little up on the front side. It just makes it, I think, really cute, and it allows you not to have any scrap, or if you have some, it's very small pieces that I can use later in patchwork. But I'm really loving this, and we'll see what kind of comments I get tonight at the event.